Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'm going to link for everyone some charts, and these are for males. I'm sorry, this friend of mine didn't put together a female chart. However, you could pull up all these records yourself as a female, do the exact same math that Steve has done, and you could arrive at similar charts for females if you were really interested, if you just look at the methodology that he used. But I am going to link for you guys a website that a friend of mine put together an article and some charts on what he considers to be solid drug-free strength standards. Now, I understand that there are problems with these methodologies. And note, he didn't put these things necessarily into novice, intermediate, advanced. He put them into how you rank up in terms of strength. Because being strong for a novice doesn't have any meaning. Being strong for an intermediate doesn't have any meaning. How strong you are is how strong you are. And it's unrealistic to expect to be extremely strong after a year of training unless you're just very, very genetically blessed. Now, I understand because of the methods that he used, what Steve did, and Steve's a friend of mine, he has probably one of the best, most knowledgeable fitness and training related YouTube channels out there, yet he only has 5,000 subscribers. I'm going to link that down below. So people oftentimes ask me, why don't I focus completely on just informative videos? Well, that's exactly why. Because by focusing on more than just entirely informative videos and putting out the best videos on the internet, I have 10 times the subscriber base that Steve does. Steve's information is just as good as mine. Steve puts out some of the most informative training videos on the internet, yet he can't get to 10,000 subscribers because that's all that he does. So when people ask me why I don't do that and they wish I did, they're basically telling me they want me to be down where he's at 5,000, 6,000 subscribers. But check his channel out and check this article out. And what he basically did is that he took all of the drug-tested feds in the U.S. and he pulled their national raw records. Because numbers get inflated by perceptions on the internet. People don't understand what strength standards are like at actual real powerlifting meets. Because of all the drug use, because of the genetic elite, because of all the equipped lifting and knee wraps and everything that start adding to lifts very, very quickly can very much skew people's perceptions of strength. And they don't realize that someone they see on the internet, or a number of people who are on the internet and they put videos up of their strength, and people don't realize that these people are better than the top 1% of lifters oftentimes. That oftentimes you'd be surprised, based upon internet standards, someone who's in the top 5% of competitive powerlifters might be considered weak by internet standards. And he gives you guys realistic standards, and what he does, he takes and does some averages and looks at all the weight classes of, I think, 6 different drug-tested feds, looks at their national records in the United States, which is a big enough country to draw a good pull from, and then he works these strength standards off percentages of rough averages of those different feds when combined. Now, a lot of people are going to point out just because they're drug tested doesn't mean anything. In fact, I'm going to see people argue this both directions, so let me just shoot both of you down. We don't have any other standards to go by. Yes, I'm aware that some of these people may have set these records without ever being tested even once, all the way up to setting the record, because drug testing is expensive and drug tested federations don't test as stringently or as often as you would think they do. And neither does natural bodybuilding. Shit's too expensive. And it is too easy to cheat. It does work on an honor system, but at the very least, this is a crowd of people who claim to be drug-free, swear they're drug-free, at least in some sort of piece of paper, and might, at one point or another, been tested. So that's the closest you're going to get. Live with it. But the thing is that when he goes by what he calls a pro strength level means that you can hit those records of guys who are at least listed as drug-free, whether they are or not. Elite is based upon a smaller percentage of that. Very strong, a smaller percentage of that. And when he breaks these down, some people say, well, that person isn't very strong. Well, very strong, by his standards, puts you at around an intermediate lifter. And extremely strong puts you in easily the top 1% of men walking on the earth at your body weight in terms of strength. And that combines all men together, trained and untrained, because some people are just genetically and naturally strong for manual labor, various sports. And then a good chunk of the population does train. Maybe 10% of men do lift weights. Well, you're still in the top 10% of the men who lift weights also if you're in that category. So it's a good standard to use. And I understand that some people will also think these standards are too low. A lot of people are going to say, oh, these standards are too high, they're unrealistic. And I've just addressed that. Well, I understand that there is the drug factor there, but in lower weight classes, drugs don't add as much strength as you think they do. And you don't have any other reference to go on. I think these are reasonable numbers to work with to assess yourself in terms of where you rank up if you really want to know where your strength is. And then the other extreme, the guys who are the very genetically blessed lifters will look at these charts and go, wow, this is a pussy chart. This is dumbing down people, and this is basically wanting everyone to be a weak, pathetic pussy if you think that, a 600-pound deadlift is strong at all for a man who's 220. That's just the most pathetic shit I've ever seen. You're going to get people on both extremes who will bash these standards, but I think they meet a good middle ground. I basically support what Steve has said here. I think these are very good guidelines for someone who just wants to know how strong they really are from a perspective of looking at actual competition and competitive lifters, assuming your lifts are meat legal and completely raw. These are good guidelines for people to gauge themselves with. And if you notice, he actually explains the description of what each one of the categories means. So check it out and let me know what you guys think. But I do back Steve on this one. I think this is a well put together article and a well put together set of charts. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.